Conceived in the blue-lit waters of Bieké, CucubaNación incubated like glowing larvae of fireflies through countless dark nights following Hurricanes Irma and María, born onto a black wall and a black canvas in cathartic expression following police repression of May Day protests. It expanded into a storefront space in the frustrating weeks following Hurricane Fiona. CucubaNación has revealed itself as an autonomous space to envision and practice sovereignty, to imagine what we are collectively needing and practice dreaming, living it into existence. Saludos and welcome to the Rematriating Boriken podcast, where we discuss the journey to the essence of these islands, this archipelago and her surrounding waters, the restoration of our essence before conquests and continued colonialism, the reclamation of our collective healing and liberation. I am Yasmin Hernandez, creator of CucubaNación, artist, writer, activist, born and raised in Brooklyn, Rematriating Boriken. Gente, thank you for those of you who click on this and listen. I am in such gratitude for your time, your care, your support. My last episode before these two of CucubaNación, I posted it for the new moon and I never promoted it because life. So when I went in to upload the full moon episode, I saw that people were listening. And so I just greatly appreciate those of you who take the time to come back each episode or each month to listen in, and also for new folks arriving to listen in for the first time. Thanks for being here. So to commemorate 2 years since opening the space CucubaNación, I wanted to record this episode that explains a little more profoundly the concept behind CucubaNación, because specifically CucubaNación is, as a space, the host to the Rematriating Boriken project, the Rematriation gatherings. It is host to the Trinchera de Ideas series, which happens every third Thursday of the month, where we discuss different elements related to the archipelago and the liberation lessons and the rematriation strategies that are associated with those elements. Studio sessions and recorded interviews with different folks on the rematriation journeys. It is largely where I paint the series of rematriation portraits, and it is where the first part of the art series, the painting series, on Black Velvet Portraits from the Trench is on exhibition. It's kind of like a different Rematriating Boriken, where I wrote the manifesto to commemorate 5 years living in Boriken back in 2019 for the 2-year anniversary of CucubaNación, the space in Mayagüez. I also wrote a manifesto, which I will be reading here. It's not the same exact podcast because I don't believe in duplicates. We're not the same episode, but I first published a Spanish episode, which is episode 15, on this topic of CucubaNación. Si prefieren escucharlo en español, es el episodio 15 de este mismo podcast. This particular episode is in English and has a lot of the same information, but not identical to the way that I said it. Most of my episodes, unless I have a recording that was spontaneous, or unless I'm reading, like I will be reading the manifesto here, all of my episodes are top of the dome, recorded at the moment. They're not scripted. For the purpose of this episode, I would say this is more like a collage, where I am reading the manifesto and also other reflections from other times along the journey. I will also add that depending on when I record these, usually I record from my home in a community where there are chickens, roosters. If I'm recording by day, if I'm recording by night, we have crickets or coquis. Pero this is just a reflection on CucubaNación. CucubaNación Manifesto. Blackness is the original canvas. conceived in the darkness of the cosmos, created in the darkness of the womb. It contains the expansive treasures of the abyss. Black canvas upon which creation scribbles light as stars, as moons, nebulous conception of new life, light as fireflies, cucubanos, dinoflagellates, and other infinite forms of bioluminescent marine life. Light as testament to life, thriving in harsh environments. Light most resplendent when conditions are favorable, but still shines in radical testimony when conditions are unfavorable. Light as luminous language, energetic communications through dark skies and dark water like sonar. We hold more lit bays than anywhere else on this planet. Portal of cosmic planetary light reduced to colonial commodity. Puerto Rico, our archipelago, darkened by conquest, colonialism, extinguished by climate change storms, disappeared from nighttime satellite imagery where it once shined like a Christmas tree. Artificial light is temporary. Climate change winds send cold waters surging into our warm bays. Soulless Bitiyanki sell our beaches, chop down mangroves, starve dinoflagellates who rely on tepid waters, nutrient-rich from mangled roots. Our archipelago cancels light pollution and artificial light, reclaims darkness as organic site of its powerful decolonial concentration of natural light and life. Our archipelago teaches the favorable conditions that send single-cell organisms shining through darkness, calls us to remember, reclaim conditions favorable to our own thriving, our own shining, calls us back to its dark womb to regestate, unlearn colonial ways, rebirth ourselves in luminous liberation. We spent months moving through dark nights holding cell phones to black skies for signals connecting us to loved ones. Instead, we found Cucubano constellations hovering above, revealing all technology has taught us to unsee. Turned off, disconnected, we reclaimed sight. We remembered who we were, remember who we are. Like retinas readjusting, seeing light through darkness, we step out from under the floodlights of colonial surveillance, scribbling sacred swirls of Boricua bioluminescence, reclaiming life and blackness. Like the white sheets of paper they always set before us to draw shadows, we do away with the colonial lens, reclaim black surfaces to draw light from darkness. Remembering our own luminosity, we reconnect, reattune to our ancestral energetic resonance. We remember, our children remember that darkness is not a site of fear, but the original canvas. We remember to count cucubanos, draw constellations. We have persisted in darkness long enough for our eyes to adjust. We have seen the shadows and all they reveal to us. We reclaim sight, reclaim the green of cucubanos and luciérnagas, reclaim the blue of dinoflagellates, reclaim the colors of our earth majestic school, offering opposites to master the art of harmony and balance. We reclaim darkness to reclaim our own light. We reclaim blackness, reclaim the red thorax, black wings and yellow lines and green glow of fireflies as colors of Marcus Garvey's dreams of liberation. We reclaim our sacred place in the greater global Black liberation struggle. We reclaim our colors and creativity, master our glow. Reclaim the wonder of childhood for all the innocence colonialism has stolen with its violence. We reclaim darkness and the ability to see through it to overturn imposed invisibility. We ourselves determine our visibility or clandestinity. We reject the policing of our tongues, the imposition of one colonial language over another, further dividing us. We reclaim the most prevalent language on earth, the one communicated by an infinity of bioluminescent creatures in her abundant waters. From this moment forward, we speak light, transcendent, effective in this and other dimensions. We dissolve the imposed confines of colonialism. Conceived in the blue-lit waters of Bieké, CucubaNación incubated like glowing larvae of fireflies through countless dark nights following Hurricanes Irma and María. It was born onto a black wall and a black canvas in cathartic expression following police repression of May Day protests. It expanded into a storefront space in the frustrating weeks following Hurricane Fiona. CucubaNación has revealed itself as an autonomous space to envision and practice sovereignty, to imagine what we are collectively needing and practice streaming, living it into existence. CucubaNación is a luminous, borderless, liberated nation cultivating our essence through our internal light, harnessing the power of our collective light. We rely on no external power sources. We are our own light. We are our own liberators. CucubaNación Manifesto, completed on the eve of our 2-year anniversary from when we first officially opened the space, November 11th, 2022, anniversary of the killing of Cialis activists fighting for peace and justice in Vieques, Ángel Rodríguez Cristobal. But I wanted to read this paragraph where I specifically name CucubaNación. Now, what's interesting is that I don't remember when I wrote this, but clearly I wrote it in the summer of 2019. CucubaNación as a project, as a painting project, was born in 2018. In 2019, when I write this piece, I had already started the Rematriating Boriken project and had written that manifesto. This paragraph was written 2019, 20, 21, 22, was written 3 years before I opened up CucubaNación. So aquí leo. Beneath the surface of government corruption, the Fiscal Oversight Board, odious debt, and climate catastrophe lies a grimmer truth: colonialism. We lost more lives post-Maria, not from climate disaster, but from the ineptitude of a colonial government and an oppressive empire never designed to extend compassion and real relief. Those who survived had their resilience tested, soil the power that resides within and its collective potential. All this coupled with the need to collectively grieve our dead are seeds of revolution. Our people emerge as the fireflies, illuminating the black night of political apagones, radiating their own light, generating their own power. As corrupt governments and empires fall, a CucubaNación rises. One of many sources of bioluminescence in Boricua lands and waters, Cucubanos are native click beetles. Together with more common fireflies, dinoflagellates of our glowing bays, and the bioluminescent creatures and fish of the Puerto Rico Trench, these are the light beings that light up the dark. They give us sight to envision and manifest new ways of seeing, being, freeing. Here I am about to talk about the CucubaNación anniversary, and I'm like, this is not the second anniversary. Why is that? It's hard for me to remember a time when CucubaNación did not exist. I feel like I've had that place forever. Here is all the synchronicity happening as we were having this conversation around emotions at this space. I'm looking at it and it just felt so delicious because I was sitting in a corner that I never sit in. So I felt like I had a different vantage point where I could see the whole space and all the lights and the darkness and the paintings. But, you know, there was the AC was creating these drafts in there, and Susie's painting was like flapping against the wall, and so was Rosie's. And so the sequins trimming around these paintings, which is why I did it in this way. I just never get to appreciate the effect. It was also happening with Gabriel's painting, all the sequins trimming around the edges, they were all like flashing light. And then you had the little Christmas lights down at the bottom, the blue for the dinoflagellates, the green for the luciérnagas and the cucubanos in the back. In the back, they were all colorful lights because it's like deep sea bioluminescence. And that shit was just like a disco of lights. It was so dope and it just felt so abundant. And after the event ended and everyone left, I had to sit there and record this reflection. And in the reflection, I said, this space is my womb in physical form. This womb, this seat of creation, this seat of creativity, this seat of emotions, this seat of all of me, right? In that respect, creativity, creations, emotions, todo eso que conlleva el chakra sacro, eso es CucubaNación, ese espacio manifestado. And so it's been decades at this point of work, of concepts, of creative practice that have come to life in that space. Like a year and a half ago, I did a CucubaNación live where I talked about what CucubaNación was. And that same day, I found, or like the night before or something, I found the piece right on for the darkness and learned that I had put this line in there about we are this nation of light or something of Cucubanos darting across a Bieké Bay at night, algo así. And I was like, oh, this is where the concept maybe for CucubaNación was born from. And right on for the darkness is a piece that I wrote after Hurricane María, after living over 4 months of darkness at home. And it's a piece that was adapted together with another piece of, New Year's. It was like a reflection of our first New Year after María New Year in the dark. And those, I think I created a synthesis between those two pieces that became my submission to Red Sugar Cane Press's Hurricane María anthology. 2018 is when I start my first CucubaNación paintings. With the mural being the first piece, that mural, of course, being right across the street from the space, like literally the front door lines up with the mural. That was 2018. Verano de 2019 happens in 2019. And there I mentioned that a CucubaNación rises. But when I say a CucubaNación rises, this is still an art concept in my mind. Thinking on that, I now realize that here I am talking about a CucubaNación rises in 2019, which is actually 2021, 22 is when I open up the space CucubaNación. So this has been an idea in formation since 2018 when it emerged as a painting series. The first pieces were in the first week to coincide with that whole May Day shit when they arrested Nina Dros. They arrested Nina Dros in 2017 May Day. The following May Day was when, because of all the school closures, all these families arrived to protest and they tear gassed the crowd, the riot squad. And in that crowd were families and children that arrived to protest the closure of their schools. I was like immobile for I don't know how much time because I didn't take my kids to San Juan, but I did pull my kids out of school and I took them to Mayagüez to protest. And I just thought like the same way that Ivan and I did that was the same way that other parents took their kids to San Juan. And what if we had been the same way that they were tear gas in San Juan, we could have been tear gas in Mayagüez. Y eso me puso mal. And so my cathartic response to that was the CucubaNación mural, which was a caretaker, a parent, and a child with gas masks, which is interesting because that was 2 years before the pandemic. A gas mask was a reference to the tear gassing. And so later that same week, I started to paint the piece on canvas, which is all the school children with gas masks and the riot squad behind them. And then the last strata on top has cracked lampposts. And I don't know if they're cracked palm trees, which happened in our house. Like one of a palm tree, right, adjacent to where we were living during Hurricane María was, as I call it, decapitated, where the hurricane literally snapped its neck. The whole moña part just flipped down and stayed hanging there, right? It was really creepy to see. So that's the back of that painting, what inspired it. And so those two pieces, which I call Niña Escolare, are the two CucubaNación pieces created in May of 2018. And then in November of 2022, I opened the space. And so now in November of 2024, 6 years later, todavía estoy con esto de CucubaNación, voy a escribir el manifiesto. CucubaNación is a living art project. It started as a painting series and has morphed into a physical space and a concept that involves programming for the community. I had several projects happening simultaneously, different interests, different passions over the years. And under CucubaNación, they all converge. It's basically the convergence of all my selves, my artist self, my writer self, my activist self. So what started with inspiration in the Bahía bioluminescence de Bieké in 2006, where I started painting Bieké's ancestors in the colors of the blue colors of the dinoflagellates that light up in Bieké's waters. That exhibit debuted in 2009 in Bieké. We fast forward from 2009 to my 2014 move to then 2017, where Hurricane María, 2018, in those months, those like 4+ months that we spent without light, I began to appreciate or get reacquainted with the luciérnagas, or the common fireflies, and the cucubanos, which are another form of bioluminescence with their green. And that is where the series surfaces as CucubaNación, a nation of cucubanos, a nation of light. I deliberately am working on Black surfaces, something that I began in 2006, with the intentions of painting light versus painting the shadows and rendering form via shadows and darkness. 2018 to 2019 is when I paint the bulk of the works. In 2020, I continue some works before the earthquakes. And in 2020, later that year, undergo eye surgery and different eye procedures, which I won't get into right now, and then have to contemplate the ideas of sight, physical sightedness, spiritual sight, of darkness, of light. And all of this then manifests in a space that happens to be directly across the street from CucubaNación, the mural that I painted in 2018, which is the first work that I ever paint with that title, where I use the term CucubaNación. And so I say that the space claimed itself, right? Named itself, identified itself and what it wanted to be. And since then, it has become this experiment on how to turn a painting series into an installation, into a living art project, multidisciplinary, that extends beyond the walls into a sort of immersive installation where the space becomes this meditation on darkness, on light, on bioluminescence, on what it is to cultivate inner light, harness inner light, collective light. What is the meaning of our shadows, of doing shadow work and healing those parts of ourselves that we've suppressed, all of this. And so now I'm in the process of carrying out an interview series where I sit with different folks on the rematriation journey to understand what are the things that sustain them here. What was this calling here? What are the challenges? What are the joys? What are the lessons? How have they grown since being here? All of this is informing a portrait series, documenting these folks and visibilizing these folks, because we hear so much about the exodus out of Puerto Rico and not enough about those of us being called home and committing to this place full time, committing to this archipelago full-time. And then what is that? What is a rematriation practice? What is rematriation? What is a rematriation practice that is specifically aligned, attuned to this archipelago? And how do we realign ourselves to an archipelagic identity? One in which we see ourselves as an expanse of islands and waterways connecting us to the Caribbean basin. That is our true home. And decolonizing from the ways and the amenities of the imperialists of the United States, where many of us grew up, but also considering the Boricua diaspora as a transcendent diaspora that goes well beyond the States. That's not the only place we travel to and live in. And what does it mean to, like our ancestors, like our freedom fighters, have the world view that is informed from all of our travels, and bringing that back to shape our vision for liberation that we're bringing into existence via day-to-day practice and praxis. Some of what we do at the space is host art workshops, creating to discuss different themes, whether they be spiritual themes like chakras, healing in the energetic body, also going along the lines of political education. It's a way of getting people to exercise, again, that creative muscle, and that muscle where we play that we are not allowed to enjoy as adults. We've hosted healing spaces, whether they be acupuncture and massage spaces, as we've done in the past, or more recently, the Cuidado Creativex space with Leo Sael Hernandez. Leo hosts these beautiful workshops that include different practices around breathing exercises and moving through different emotional challenges to bring oneself to a space of grounding or to transmute anger, to cultivate joy. These are some of the topics that Leo has been working in the past months. All my joy goes around finally realizing the space and the possibility and the manifestation of what I had always envisioned as a freedom school, which is that I never in New York City wanted to teach in a formal school, although it was suggested to me various times when I was doing museum education work in New York City, feeling like I wanted the autonomy to be able to teach what I wanted to and not have the pressures of grading and the pressures of the disciplinarian aspect that schools seem to impose often. And so this space to explore via our own ancestors and our own heroes, different themes that are necessary to our own healing and liberating. So we started with the Bell Hooks study group, looking at the text All About Love, and most recently did the Luisa Capetillo study group. Luisa Capetillo having been an anarchist and espiritista from the previous century, who was very active in the early 1900s in Puerto Rico and wrote what's considered Puerto Rico's first feminist manifesto in 1911. And what was also the impetus to just get it all going finally with specific regards to the study groups was that Getsia Camacho Ramos, who is an artist that is involved in the space as well, artist in residence at Taller Libertad, and who this podcast has featured in episode 11, host the espacio, the Círculo de Lectura Corregir, and that study group is specifically around the history of armed struggle in Puerto Rico. So these are some of the different offerings that we have had at CucubaNación. And of course, the ongoing Trinchera de Ideas series, which is the rematriation conversations that we do. The next one coming up will be on December 19th with the topic of light, in anticipation of the solstice that would be happening in a few days after
The one we did last month was on the topic. It was actually called Abismo, but it doubled as a conversation around darkness and artificial light. So we'll be getting deeper into the light aspects for the one coming up now in December. Stay tuned for what's ahead for 2025 at CucubaNación. Thanks so much for listening to another episode of the Rematriating Boriken podcast. With this episode having been about CucubaNación, just an invitation to folks who are in Puerto Rico or traveling through El Oeste who would like to visit. We are located in Mayagüez, en el pueblo de Mayagüez, cerca a la Plaza de Mercado, 4 Calle San Vicente, cerca a la esquina Betances. So our neighbors are Betances y Sur on the corner, and the Bomba Estudio 353, and to my left is the urban clothing shop D-Lab. So it's a place to come and visit and also check out everything else going on close by. También you could follow us on Instagram at CucubaNación. And yes, if you need hours, I'm usually there Wednesdays and Thursdays, but we can also schedule an appointment if you'd like to come by. Again, thanks for supporting this podcast. You can subscribe to receive notifications of new episodes, or even like and share if you like what you're listening to here. I post new episodes around the new and full moons, and maybe some surprise ones in between. For more information about Rematriating Boriken, you could follow us on Instagram at Rematriating Boriken, or visit the website Rematriating Boriken with a K.com. I'd like to add too that my website, YasminHernandezArt.com, is being recreated after divesting and in solidarity with Palestine and giving up my previous website. So as I rebuild that, which I hope to have it up and running more expensively sometime this month, the CucubaNación manifesto that I read on here will be available there in both English and Spanish. You could also access it with the new URL, CucubaNación.com. For the Rematriating Boriken manifesto, if you were interested in reading that, that is up at rematriatingboriken.com/manifesto. For those who would like to support the work with a donation, there's information on where you can do that, and also the links that I've mentioned are posted below this video on YouTube. Much love to everyone. Thank you for listening in.